Welcome to the Friends of FEADies podcast, brought to you by Feed Canada, our funding partner, ISED, and founding partner, the Saskatchewan Food Centre. This show is all about celebrating the incredible journeys of female entrepreneurs in the agri-food and food manufacturing sector. We're here to dish out the secrets of success and serve up a side of inspiration along the way. We are the Feed program where dreams are made, businesses are born, and the agri-food world is your oyster. Let's dine together. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Friends of FEADies podcast. My name is Lindsay, and I'm your host. Today, I sat down with Azrah Manji-Savin, and Azrah is the CEO and co-founder of Syzl and the creator of Volli AI, a new co-pilot tool built specifically for food entrepreneurs. She brings a unique blend of deep tech knowledge and real-world founder experience, having previously served as a business and community leader at WeWork and a VP at Durham Capital. I so appreciated the time that Azrah took to sit down with me and talk all things food. I think you'll really enjoy the talk, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Excited to have you. Can you just give a little intro about yourself, Azrah, and what you do or how you kind of got started?
Yeah, absolutely. So Syzl, I like to say it was born kind of out of that intersection of pain and possibility. And so I like to think of myself as a community builder. I'm a daughter of immigrants. And I saw really brilliant food makers blocked not by being super talented, but by their access. And access should not be a reason that we don't get to experience incredible talent. Doesn't matter in what industry that is. So I really grew up watching the power of food bringing people together. I'm a foodie at heart. I love to cook. I love flavor. And I had a lot of really professional experience in real estate and tech and innovation, had the opportunity to work for some incredible companies. And in doing all of that, I felt that calling to make a system that's more fair for this generation of food entrepreneurs. And what can we do as individuals, as technologists, as entrepreneurs to kind of make that vision come to life?
Do you have kind of any food experience in your own background or just more on the passion side of things for food?
Yeah, on both sides, to be honest. So, what I say is, I grew up in a community where selling food or selling food to friends and family was very much part of the cultural system, very much part of the community. But it was all that informal work. It's not necessarily the, okay, I'm going to go to culinary school or I'm going to work with a food scientist. It's how do I bring that recipe that makes me feel something, that makes my family feel something, and use that to maybe provide a little bit more economic opportunity. And so I like to consider myself somebody of the informal food sector because that's where so many, I think, immigrant families kind of branch out from, not realizing sometimes it can be more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find too, just, working with Feed, we obviously work with mainly women or prioritize working with women. And I do find that like the food industry is one of the lower barriers to entry
Yeah.
for women, for immigrants, for people, just because like that skill already exists. And then just
Yes.
like being able to pivot and start a business off of that um, is accessible in a way certain other things aren't. Starting is a lot more accessible, but when we get into kind of the growing stage with people, that's often where it seems like that's where more the barriers are.
Hmm.
So it feels a little bit like and I don't know if I could say Syzl for sure, but if you wanted to kind of explain a little bit about Volli to us too. From what I understand, it seems like a really cool tool that might be able to help with some of that, like some of those barriers.
Absolutely. So I'll kind of give a quick on first Sizzle, then why Volley, because I think they kind of play interchangeably. And so with Sizzle, right, we started with the big problem of commercial kitchen space. And to your point about who you work with at Feed, the types of people that come through this program, they know better than anybody that commercial space is locked behind leases and legacy systems. We know this. And so what we do at Sizzle is that we're unlocking that. We unlock it hour by hour from people who are really fueling this other side of what food side hustles, gig economy, all of that is, so you can get started and see if this can be something full time. And what does that look like? And there's this massive underutilization of kitchens, there's a ton of unmet demand. But with Volley, it was once we solved the where you're going to cook, turns out what you actually wanted to know was how. And people kept coming to us at Syzl saying, "Oh, it's great that you have the space, but can you help me price it out? Or how do I budget this? Or what can I do? What can I do?" So Volley was really built out of this need for kind of everything else. Volley is the co-founder. It helps with sales and planning and pricing and growth and all of those questions you would ask a business co-founder, because we learned that a food maker doesn't just need space, they need structure. So Volley, we're really automating that strategy, that decision making, to put things so that you can really focus on the thing that you do best, which is creation.
When we first met, you had described Syzl as like the Airbnb for commercial kitchen
Yeah.
space. And so I wanted to mention that this morning because if people, still weren't 100% sure exactly what that meant, like I thought that that was just a great way to just like really simplify and break down what you do. When we did meet and we spoke, you mentioned that Volley kind of was created through an exercise that you had done to kind of help people, and then you realized that there was more you could do than maybe
Mhm.
just this free tool. Do you want to share that story with people?
Yeah, absolutely. So the concept of Volley, like I said, came from our absolutely incredible developers who were listening to the problems that the sales team and customer success were having. Which, as a side note, for anybody who's also listening and runs a team or wants to run a team, that cross functional relationship and communication is so important, because I really believe that's where the innovation happens, is when you get people from two different sides of the problem coming together. And so our devs actually did a hackathon. And again, for non-tech speak, they locked themselves away for 3 days, and came up with a solution to the problem that the salespeople were having, which was, oh, we get people coming in and saying things like, "Hey, I need a commercial kitchen space." Awesome, fantastic. Do you currently have a food business? No. Okay. Do you have customers? No. But I'm going to put on Uber Eats and it's going to be fine. And that's when we take a step back and we do a lot of the guidance. I think that some incubators play, yourselves at Feed play, which is, all right, let's take a minute. Let's really go through what's the business idea? How do we get your first round of customers? What's their feedback to it? Have you figured out pricing? Have you figured out a way to get people that aren't friends and family to try the product? Having those conversations. And that was very time consuming, very educational, but very time consuming. And so when that problem was really brought up, that's where the developers went back and did this hackathon project for, oh, can we build a tech solution to solve this? And that was the early idea phase of what Volley was. And then when we presented that and that got out there, I remember my co-founder was doing a panel and talking about it. And there were people in the audience after that came up to him and was like, is that for sale? Is that just the thing? I want to buy that. That's what we need. That's what educational institutions were interested in, what small business centers wanted to do, because it helps the people who have those conversations. It makes it a little bit easier and it helps them guide. It was not a replacement, it's an asset. And that's when we decided, you know what, this could actually be bigger than what we think it is. It's coming out of a need for people who want this, who support food entrepreneurs, not just the food entrepreneur themselves. And that was a really exciting light bulb moment for us. And so we said, okay, if we take a real tech forward approach to this, if we apply, and again, I'm not going to get too techy, but the computational mathematics and all the things that go into building a proper AI system, not just, a chat GPT alternative, we saw a real empty space, because all these big tools are either very generic, like ChatGPT, which is amazing, do not get me wrong, but you need to do a lot of prompt engineering. It needs to be very focused and does not understand the industry the same way. Or it's something that's built for a company that's 10 times larger than you and is asking for something that's, $10,000 a year. You don't have $10,000 of where are you? No, don't do that. And so we thought that they're just like with Syzl, the independent, the small business, the owner operator gets passed over when there's amazing technology and innovations in this space. And we wanted to make sure that didn't happen again. And so, just like with Syzl, we built Volli, which is, in essence, a different product line of what we're doing at Syzl to really support. And it came out of that experimentation and listening and trying and getting feedback. It wasn't, we take the same approach that we tell the food makers. Just because I think it's a great idea doesn't mean that the world thinks it's a great idea. The equivalent of going out to the farmer's market and getting the feedback, that's this, right? It's getting feedback. It's learning if people want to purchase it. What are people's engagements? What kind of problems are they having? It's not just, I'm going to put this cool app out into the world and hope people buy it. And so we also hoped by kind of showing we practice what we preach a little bit, it built some more trust in the industry as well.
Just with people kind of starting to further better understand AI, we actually just had you on for a webinar as well, and that was actually our most highly attended webinar ever. I believe we had over 70 people sign up for it.
Wow.
So for a live webinar, and then now that it's on the site, I'm sure it's going to be getting a lot of replays as well. So if you didn't get a chance to watch it, you can go check that out on our site. But in that, we were talking and like learning more about AI and different concerns people had. And I thought another interesting thing about Volley that you had kind of mentioned was that, you know, people are sometimes have their secret recipe or things that they're
Mhm.
really proud of, but like want protected and don't want to necessarily or we're worried about, say, putting into chat GPT and it's
Yeah.
just kind of out there now or whatever. Volley works a little differently from what I understand. Can you kind of like walk us through that as well?
For sure. So there are definitely public and private systems when it comes to AI, and that's any tool that you use. I always tell every single entrepreneur, especially, and those who are in food who have proprietary recipes, who have things that they're really proud of and have spent a lot of time with, um, make sure that the models you're using are not public. That means that they're not taking that information. And so when we started Volley, the big thing for us from the get-go, there's not even an alternative, is we actually don't have that kind of public program. So what we do is we make sure that what's happening within the system, and Volley is an agentic project, which means you give it the information and it takes the information you give it to prompt more questions. It's not just sourcing from the big bad internet. It's saying, okay, you told me these things about the recipe. Let's dig into the specific things and nuances that make your recipe unique, how that impacts sales or batch sizing or whatever the questions that you do have. And your friend who also is using Volley, those things don't interact. You're building your own closed loop system. And each individual person who uses Volley gets that same approach. It's not that they're all coming in and sharing those ideas together. And I wanted to be really sure because there is some tech hesitancy and AI hesitancy within this group, especially, which is understandable. So these are ways to protect yourself. And we built Volley with that in mind, 100%.
You actually just kind of led right into my next question. What would you say if someone's like hesitant to like start adding more tech or AI into their business?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I always like to tell everybody is when you're looking to add something, make sure that you start with one tool at a time that can save you. What is it that you're looking for? Is it to save time? Is it to track your wins? Whatever it is, and incrementally grow. Because tech is not the goal. It's your time, it's your freedom, it's the things that tech enables. You don't need to be a tech company to use tech. And I think that's a really big misconception. So with us at Volley and Syzl, we're not about AI as a replacement. We're just trying to remove your mental clutter so that you can do better, so that you can thrive. And so I'd give the advice to anybody who's a little bit hesitant is let's start to reframe how AI and tech can really support our workflow, as opposed to us thinking how it's going to replace it. Email is much more efficient way to get in touch with your vendors than snail mail. Not saying you can't send a letter to the small business that puts you on the shelves, but it's a lot faster if you can go in and take a photo and send a quick text or send a quick email. That's really how I try to relay this to people, is that it's not supposed to be something that is this huge, heavy lift that's really burdensome.
Are there areas of AI that food entrepreneurs are possibly overlooking at this point?
Volley, shameless plug. But it's looking at how you can start to streamline your processes. And I think that's what people are overlooking, is that a lot of folks, I think, are using AI, and we get this from a lot of our conversations, that, oh, chat gpt is like Google, like it can answer my questions, as opposed to taking the approach that AI is here to refine things for me. AI is here to not answer questions, but to be the equivalent of my assistant. It's only as good as the information that you put in and the things that you want to get out of it. So, as simple as, you're sending out inquiries to farmers markets or to small grocery stores, pop that website into AI and put in your email and ask it, hey, did I miss anything in the application process? Is there anything I should highlight that they put in the application that I didn't put in? Instead of asking, somebody on your team to be that second set of eyes, get AI to do it. Now it saves somebody else that 30 minutes. Start to use AI to do those kinds of tasks. And I think it's horrendously overlooked as a use case.
I really wanted to kind of give a little bit of time to talking about Syzl, talking about Volley, just because I do think they're both tools that people who are in our membership could really benefit from. But I'd also just like to kind of pivot and get to know a little bit more about you now that we've talked a lot about the things you've created.
Thank you.
So I was just kind of curious, having built these kind of two big things, what are some of your personal learnings going through this process as a founder?
It's a good question. Startups are mirrors. They reflect back to you everything, even if you don't want to see it. So I have learned so much about what it means to be adaptable. You can preach adaptability to everybody else, but when it comes to, okay, this is what I've got to do for myself, I've got to practice this, I've got to implement it, it's challenging. It's challenging to change the way that you look at things. It's challenging to say, hey, you know what? The data is actually showing XY is a better use case. Maybe we should pivot part of our approach or our sales team. I've learned how to be a different kind of manager. What does it mean to not have to allow people the space and grace, but not say, hey, just go and run with it and not give any guidance. And I've made mistakes on both ends. I've been a micromanager. I've also given way too much freedom without any guidance, and trying to find where I can improve and where I can grow. And I think that's just the tip of the iceberg on, entrepreneurship and being a founder. You wear a million hats, and you learn a lot about yourselves, and you learn a lot about the things that you also thrive in and get you excited, and things I'd never tried before that I now ended up loving. And AI is a really good example of that. I never considered myself a tech developer. Therefore, especially in the early days of AI, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to use this. And now I use it for everything. It is embedded in every workflow of my life, personally and professionally. And I'm proud of that. And that's a lot of self-reflection of saying, okay, I got to eat my own dog food. If I'm telling food entrepreneurs they got to use AI workflows, I got to use the AI workflows. I've got to use it for everything, and seeing what that looks like.
Yeah, so having done that, I assume you're continuing to do it because you found benefit for that.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a bit of a harder transition, or was it fairly straightforward, just kind of integrating that all into your life?
I like to think I'm a naturally curious person. I think that makes for good and bad, because the rabbit holes I can go into can also be a big time suck. But once I learned how to make it work for myself, and so I know we're talking about personal life, so I'll give an example. I can get very easily distracted with my day because I'm always doing a million things. Priorities shift, things change day over day, week over week. And so I actually trained an AI model. I asked it, I was like, hey, if I want to be the most productive, efficient version of myself, take all this information from these books and from these really amazing productivity experts, and ask me a list of 100 questions that would help you understand me better so you can teach me how to be more productive. Gave me a list of questions. I answered it all. I fed it back to the system. And now I have essentially an AI thing that allows me to put in every day, hey, these are my top 3 priorities. Help me structure my day. These are the ways that I'm feeling today. These are the big meetings I can't miss. What should I be focused on? Help me with that, because otherwise I'm going to get distracted. And it's like, all right, here's the day. This is the time that you start. And, if you feel distracted, here's some other tasks that you can do that are of next level importance. It's not magic. I told it what I needed to do. I told it the style that I need that to be productive. I told it what my requirements are, but it feeds it back in a way that's really efficient. And so I think that's an example of something that felt like it could be so complicated. But I was like, oh, wait, let's take a second and see how we can integrate it. And now once I've started, I can't stop.
Yeah, I love that. I think I might have to give that a try because, yeah, competing priorities is something that I definitely struggle with. And sometimes the idea of just like, I don't have to create the list of orders of priorities to
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
that can be created for me once I just kind of brain dump that in. You're kind of opening up some more mental space for yourself, I think, there
Yeah.
as well.
Absolutely.
So you're obviously have a lot of different things going on running both of these ventures. So what do you do to kind of stay a little bit more grounded or kind of reconnect with yourself with everything moving so fast paced?
Yeah. I'm not always the best at it. I think some days or some weeks are better than others. But something that I always try to make sure I have time for is, eating with my family. Because food is like one of our core values at the company is for the love of food. And it's a reminder of why we do what we do. Why do I wake up in the morning every single day when it's, super chaotic? How do we celebrate the wins and the failures? And so making sure that I make time for food in my life, making sure I eat dinner with my family, making sure I spend time in kitchens, not just in, boardrooms or in the office. Going out, and I'll give a great example. Last weekend, there was a really big street festival here in Toronto. We knew that we had makers who had actually called us. They had booked kitchens because there were going to be vendors at this festival. That's a fun thing to do on a Sunday. That's a relaxing, exciting thing. But then also going out to seek them and trying all their food. And that's a really creative, grounding way to stay in touch with your customer, do something that you love, and it brings inspiration back. And I'm so fortunate to work in an industry that brings that kind of creativity and excitement. I think that's why we chose to do this as well, because those moments that you need, I'm able to go back to that one thing. And I think everybody listening to the podcast, flavor brings a very specific type of joy, and making sure you keep room and space and honor that joy wherever you can.
Mhm. I love that. And I really relate to kind of what you're talking about just when working with people and stuff, because I find it's similar. Like whenever I get the chance to go to a restaurant of someone I've worked with
Yeah.
or sample a product of someone we've worked with, or even when I see people in stores and stuff, it's like, it's just that kind of a little bit of that revitalization, or it's just kind of that thing where it's like, yeah, just that connection to like what you're doing and like, oh, like it's real now.
Yeah,
It's been real, but it's even more real now that you've like actually been there, tasted the food and stuff. So yeah, I
exactly.
really appreciate that.
And you feel that burst for the maker. I get so excited because I go, like, there's a great chili oil person, and I go and I buy it and I keep it in my fridge. And anytime if someone come over and they're like, oh, how's work? I'm like, try this.
Yeah.
This is work for me. This is, me telling you that there's this amazing chili oil producer and this amazing organic ketchup guy. And you bring it into your life in a way that feels meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely say like Christmas gifts and that
Oh
sort of
yeah,
thing for me have definitely pivoted towards being like, okay, well, I love this and I tried this, so everyone's getting jam, everyone's getting hot sauce, like whatever the thing, whatever the things are at that time it seems to be. So, um,
100%. When I was visiting you guys in Saskatoon not too long ago, that was one of the things I wanted to bring home. That there was an independent maker. I actually saw it on the shelf at the Innovation Center because you guys have an amazing food shelf and you demonstrate the people that are there. And there was a Saskatoon berry jam. And I know my son has never tried that before, and he's a big jam person. So I went and I found it and I bought it and I brought it home to bring that little piece of Saskatoon and that business trip home with me, but in a way that really honored a maker and a food creative, even if I've never met them before.
and like you said, it connects to that taste, flavor kind of thing where it's just
For
like
sure.
you're bringing, it's like, okay, this is a representation of the place you've been,
Yeah.
however they interpret it when they try it. I'd love to pivot to talking a little bit about kind of what you see in the future in maybe the next few years when it comes to food and tech coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing tech and AI and research coming in a lot of places and really upending traditional systems. And one of the ways that I see this being used in an incredibly beneficial way is looking at food waste. And how do we start to hone in on reducing our food waste, whether you're a restaurant, whether you're an individual, whether you're an organization that's trying to manage that stream. And I want to shout out Need, KNEAD, who's doing incredible things in that space. There's also going to be a lot of focus on food halls as a way to be a bit more innovative and experimental in what you're doing as a food creator or as a chef. Food courts have been very popular in Canada, but that tends to be run by franchises or larger groups. And we're taking a lot of the European models of can an individual start to run a food hall space for 2, 3 months and test out an innovative product? Can fine dining chefs come and get real world feedback from customers that may not be going to their restaurant so they can understand what's happening on the ground? And that's a really exciting one that I think we're starting to see across Canada in a big way, even over the last 2 years. That wasn't around before. And so we're really excited to kind of see what's coming next.
I just want to pivot to some just kind of fun food related questions just as we kind of wrap up here. So are you more of a coffee or a tea person?
Coffee for sure.
Fair.
Not saying I don't love my tea, I do, but
If you got to choose one,
if I gotta choose, it's
choose.
coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a specific kitchen tool you couldn't live without?
I think my kitchen knife. Like I have a really, really good kitchen knife. And then going back to your standard, buy a block of six, I don't think I can do it.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, is there a food trend that you love or one that you could do without right now?
I love the chili oil trend. I think it's amazing. I've always been a big fan of Hong Kong style chili oil and the fact that that's exploded with different flavors, different iterations. Um, you can never have too much, and that may be controversial, but I think I have like 7 or 8 brands in my fridge right now. So I love that. Something I personally could do without is the dill pickle everything. Um, I'm not a huge pickle person. I prefer Indian style pickles, so like mango achar and stuff. So dill pickles for me should not be in ice cream or in my seltzer water.
I was gonna call that a controversial opinion, but then at the end there, where you the specific examples you listed, it's like, okay, I agree. There's I love dill pickle. But yeah, there is a certain line where it's like, okay, maybe too much. And yeah, chili oil, I agree as well. I'm not like I'm not a huge fan of eggs, but I'm like they're healthy. I should eat them. But
Mhm.
yeah, scrambled eggs, put some chili oil.
Oh yeah,
It's like they're so good now. Like it's like yeah, now I have no problem. Um,
for
so yeah,
sure.
chili oil definitely a game changer. What would you say is a comfort food for you?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, okay, I'll give two. So one I'll give is mac and cheese, but with the big caveat that only my mac and cheese, like the way that I make it, because I'm so particular, I put in mustard powder. I make sure it's a specific type of cheese. So I love my mac and cheese. And then there's another, it's a very specific Indian dish. It's one that I grew up with. And it's from like a specific diaspora as well. So it's not super well known. It's called lasan ladva. It's you take garlic and flour and you bake it together and you put it over yogurt. It's unbelievable. And that's like I've had a hard day and just need to feel like home.
But this one's a bit of a pivot as well, but outside of food, but just in general, kind of a fun question is, do you have a piece of advice you'd give to your younger self as a founder?
That's a great question. I think it would be to find community and lean on others sooner and earlier. I thought I had to do everything myself, and being a founder is an incredibly lonely journey. And I really benefited from starting to be vulnerable and talking to other founders and building that incredible cohort of people. And I was really scared to do that at first because I thought it maybe symbolized weakness or that I couldn't be a leader. I wish I had learned that a lot sooner, that leadership actually is vulnerability and trust.
That's great. That's a great piece of advice. I love that. Can you talk about the experience of having a co-founder? Because I feel like we're starting to see that more and more with businesses in and around the food industry, is people coming together to create that business, not just leaning on one person, say.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I would always recommend is a co-founder that you can trust entirely. This is somebody that you trust just as much as yourself to get the job done, because that's where I see a lot of co-founder relationships fall apart. The other thing is try to find somebody with skills that are the exact opposite of yours. And I'll lean actually into the food industry for this. I know this amazing duo where one is the chef creator, makes incredible pasta, sells it to restaurants all across Toronto. Co-founder, not a chef at all, is the business guy, is the one picking up the phone, managing the accounts, figuring out what all the different ingredient costs are actually going to turn into for final product sale versus wholesale. Both of them fully openly acknowledge that they could not do the other person's job. And that humility and that trust, it's incredible. And I think that's what you need if you're going to be able to bring in another person. And that's what we have here, is that I am not a technical founder at all. I do not know code. I am not a mathematician. I am not a computational mathematician. I cannot do that stuff, but I fully 100% and then some trust my co-founder, who has absolutely brilliant product vision and what this world could look like, and has so much passion for it, and is so intelligent. And I trust the decisions that he makes because of that.
I love that. I love to hear that. I find even on the micro scale of that, like Nafisa and I, it's a 2-person team at Feed right now. And it's like, yeah, her and I just complement each other so well. And it's like, she has her side of things, I have mine. And instead of running in a bunch of overlap, it's like we have that those complementary skill sets. And yeah, it just makes everything flow a lot better when it's like, I can trust that you know what you're doing over here. You trust I know what I'm doing over here.
Yeah.
And then you both have the space to like get to work and start doing some great stuff. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me this morning, Azrah. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure our members will as well. So thank you. Thank you to our listeners for indulging your entrepreneurial appetite with this episode of Friends of FEADies, brought to you by Feed Canada, our funding partner ISET, and founding partner, the Saskatchewan Food Centre. If anything we have discussed today has ignited an entrepreneurial fire within you, but you're not quite sure how to get started, or you're craving mentorship and coaching to help grow your business, please reach out to us at feed.ca. That's FEAD.ca. Connect with us on social media. We're sprinkled all over the digital landscape, and our team is ready to provide the mentorship and coaching you need to flourish. At Feed, we're here to empower women in the agri-food industry, so don't hesitate to reach out to us to join our vibrant community of foodpreneurs. Until next time, bake those dreams into reality, stay hungry for success, and continue to nourish your entrepreneurial spirit with Feed. Bon appetit.